Alrighty, we've got another league match. This one between jmcgnh and Teela Brown. This will be the first match of the season for their division. Uh, they're in Division I1, which is true. I did do that. Exactly neck and neck for lack of matches. Let's see what we got here. Oh, triumph with no plus buy. How tragic. The only ways to get your Triumph any larger are Transmogrify and Smugglers, and then you buy a single Triumph. That doesn't sound too impactful. Uh, I think this looks suspiciously like a simple big money kingdom. For as strong as everything else is here, you got great trashing between Sentry and Transmogrify and Infirmary, plenty of draw with Scrying Pool, you get a bunch of sources of actions, but there's just no way to really do anything with it without gains. I think you want for sure some number of transmogrifies, and potentially smugglers could be relevant in the end game if your opponent ever gains duchies. Uh, Otherwise, I feel like the goal here is to province fairly early. I'm not sure exactly what the deck looks like. Maybe like a transmogrify or two, a highwayman or two, some sentries and treasures. Maybe I don't know if conspirator activates reliably enough. Yeah, deceptively weak kingdom for as strong as many of these cards are individually. 3-4 also doesn't seem like an ideal split. Obviously, 5-2 would be great for opening with a Sentry. 4-3, you could open with Infirmary turn 1. Hmm. I think Silver Transmogrify seems best. Conspirator. That seems all right. I like Transmogrify better. Just Transmogrify is a pretty good trasher on its own right. You can get started trashing the estates. Conspirator, I think, suggests that you're trying to hit 5 as quickly as possible for a Sentry, and Conspirator is a bit better at doing that than Transmogrify is. Uh, so I think it's a reasonable opening. Yeah, I mean, I would think about Conspirator as basically just being like a silver here. Like you open double silver to get to Sentry, which I think is okay. Teela goes for Potion. I think this is not a scrying pool kingdom. I just don't think you have the gains for it. Like, consider any hand with a potion in it. Doesn't matter if you have 2 in a potion or 5 in a potion. All you can do that turn is just buy one scrying pool. I I think it's not worth the investment. I don't think it's terrible. You could always buy a scrying pool or 2 and then transmogrify the potion later. Uh, they do both get sentry for the first 5, which seems correct. Ah, that's a fresh wound. And a match versus Wandering Winder today. Or, no, wait, was this a Wandering Winder match, or maybe I'm mixing them up? I think I've lost 2 Apothecary-related games very recently. One of which I opened with a potion and hit 1 in a potion twice, which is just both unlikely and tragic. And the other one, I think it's had slightly worse draws. It was interesting. I like Apothecary, especially Apothecary where it synergizes with top decking stuff. And it was like an Apothecary Wishing Well Kingdom, but Wandering Wind was doing the same thing and beat me to the punch. Jancy GNH clean out reading the coaching channel of Discord. Yeah, he did bite. This kingdom, I think, is actually not the worst scenario for buying gold. I'm going to say that gold is almost certainly wrong, given that they don't have a highwayman yet. They don't have any transmogrifies. So I'm not going to endorse that gold. But I think there are scenarios where one could. One in a potion, that's tragic. There are scenarios where one could actually buy gold in this kingdom. Uh, you might not have been here at the very start, but I was saying this kingdom looks deceptively weak for as individually strong as a lot of these cards are, because there's just no gains. So you're just shooting for single province. Uh, I guess one upside of Scrying Pool is it kind of counters the smugglers. Wait a second. The person with the smugglers is also the person with the scrying pool. Yeah, I guess you stopped your opponent from getting a scrying pool. Can I emphasize Transmogrify as a good card? Transmogrify looks really important here to me. And that is perhaps the single most non-optional kingdom, card in the kingdom. Yeah, I think that is the card I most want to play with here. It is trashing. It gets you payload. It's extra gains in a kingdom where that's lacking. It gives you control over the province pile. Like if there's two provinces left, that's not safe because you can transmogrify a province into a province and buy a province. It just kind of does everything. Tragic to see all three estates in hand when you're about to play your sentry. Yeah, not an effective sentry. Teela will at least get a scrying pool here, presumably. Oh no, what? Teela. So they looked at the top two cards of their deck, saw a potion and a cursed village, and top decked them both in the order that had them draw their cursed village to no effect and play it for no cards. They could have left that on top, drawn the potion, bought a scrying pool. Uh, these sentries have not been the most effective ever. Sometimes that's just what happens with sentry. Uh, I question this decision. Well, maybe no, this is fine if you buy an infirmary here. They left both cards on top, which gets you to 7, which is not a helpful number. Unless, oh, I don't like that gold. Mostly because it's not infirmary. The one reason why you might want to have 7 is you had 3 junk cards in hand. You get a big infirmary overpay. You're trashing at least 3 bad cards, likely 4, and you're getting back around to your sentry sooner. I think infirmary looked a lot better than gold there. All right. Teela, turn 10, will potentially pick up the first scrying pool. Yep. What happened with that potion up to this point? We got it turn 3. And oh yeah, they drew it. Oh no, they drew it turn 6 and bought a highwayman, and then they drew it again with 1 copper and couldn't buy anything. And now they picked up their first scrying pool of the game. The smugglers can do nothing. These decks are awkward. They're clicking enough action cards to seem to want to try to accomplish something. Like scrying pool, for example, or conspirator, both suggest a goal of having some semblance of deck control. But then they're also buying golds, which inhibit that. I think you kind of got to pick one. I could imagine King or like playing this King with just like one Highwayman, 2 transmogrifies, some treasures, the end. I think that'd be an okay deck. I could imagine playing this kingdom with maybe a little bit more in the way of some conspirators and sentries. Maybe you buy pilgrimage once. I mean, technically twice, but you get the idea. Uh, I think for sure I want at least one Highwayman, maybe 2, and I think I want at least some number of transmogrifies, probably 2 or more. Those are the things that are non-negotiable. I think conspirators versus treasures a little bit more ambiguous. This is an upside of Transmogrify, by the way. I think Smugglers has potential here. It's a threatening card to have in your deck because it makes it dangerous for your opponent to buy duchies. But there's a lot of turns where it's doing nothing. Any turn your opponent buys Province, or if they buy Pilgrimage for the first time, or if they buy Scrying Pool, there's a lot of ways it can fail. With Transmogrify, you can just not have a conspirator in your deck, and then if your opponent ever gains a duchy, you can transmogrify an estate or a silver on that turn, and then gain a thing when you know for sure that the conspirator is going to be active. We hit 7 again. Looks like a good turn for an infirmary, probably. Maybe just a second highwayman. Obviously, the scrying pool deck would prefer that you trash some more cards. But is it really a scrying pool deck when there's just the one scrying pool in the deck? Go for another gold. When in doubt, buy gold. That's what I always say. Always works out. Okay, so how do you play this turn? Not entirely clear. Pretty sure you want to draw the gold to get to province. Set aside the scrying pool. Okay, yeah, I think this makes sense as an order. Now imagine if these sentries had been gained many turns ago. For example, one of those gold buy turns, and they had time to trash some of your junk rather than buying them halfway through the greening phase. It's still not too late to get a transmographer. I'm just looking at this potion. It's not doing anything and thinking, what if I turn that into a duchy or a sentry or a highwayman or another transmogrify? Wouldn't that be lovely? Yeah, I think JMC still needs a highwayman pretty badly. Both of them could use transmogrify. How likely is this to get to 8? Let's see, play the sentry and find out. We got 3, 5. This looks like it doesn't do it, right? Discard that silver. Is there any value in hitting 7 as opposed to 5? Does this get you anything? Do we just draw the silver for no reason? Oh, those are. Never mind. Forget I said anything. The Highman graphics were confusing me. I thought that was two silvers and two coppers in hand. This is fine. Although actually the same point applies in the opposite direction. I thought they weren't hitting 8 either way. Turns out they were hitting 8 out of the way, in which case my question, I'll reinstate. Why did you top deck a silver and draw it when it had no effect? I feel like the heuristic is more like, is this a generically good card or a generically bad card? Oh, well, silver's a card that I want, so I have to leave it on top and then draw it. I'm thinking more like, do I want silver in this hand right now? To which the answer was no. Yeah, it's not the first time they've done that. So they just picked up a cursed village off their native village map, uh, just to play it and get nothing of value there. They didn't need the village effect because they already had a village from native village. Could have set aside a second thing. Earlier they top decked with Sentry and drew it for no reason. Alrighty. Will this pilgrimage get flipped again before the game ends? What do you think? Teela has the token set face down, but like at this stage of the game, are you ever not buying a victory card? Maybe if they hit exactly 4. All right, as JMC, you surely buy this penultimate province. You're up by 1 point. Your opponent has no gains except for the smugglers. Uh, there's nothing they can do here. Leave those on top. Alrighty, now Teela's got to hope for a bad dud from JMC. Set aside a province, that's good news. Hmm. Please trash the potion. You're never using that again. Thank you. Good job. That was a good choice you made. Um, the upside for Teela is, oh no, they drew the smugglers. I was about to say the upside for Teela is they have the smugglers. So like if they buy Duchy here and JMC misses province, JMC cannot safely buy Duchy to retain a greater than 6 point lead because once JMC buys a Duchy, Teela is now threatening to do province plus Duchy in the same turn. Which is a moot point for JMC doesn't even hit 5. Uh, what do you buy here? I don't think you buy Triumph. You'd score 2 points. Actually, maybe you do buy Triumph. It's unclear. It's actually not obvious. JMC just buys an estate. Hmm, I don't think I like that. So buying a single estate puts you at 5 points, which means you still lose to a province buy, which Teela doesn't get. Why'd you top deck the silver? The, the, JMC was the one who did this earlier. And feel like the mentality is just like, I want the silver in my deck, so I must want it in my hand. But they keep drawing silvers in cases where the silvers have absolutely zero value. I mean, look at these cards. If they drew the gold or the conspirator, they would have very likely had a win. Um, were the Curse Village drawing into any of those? Um, Anyways, there was a play a second ago where JMC was up by 4 points, and they bought an estate. The estate only puts you up 5 points, which doesn't really do the main thing you would want a victory card buy to do there, which is keep you out of province range. You'd still lose to a province buy. So I don't think estate's the right answer. I think your options are either, okay, look at it today anyway, and it becomes a moot point. Game one of JMC, GNH. But anyway, I think the options are either you could buy, whatchamacallit, Triumph, which is 2 points. You gain an estate plus you gain a victory point for gaining the estate. And that's a significant number because it means you're up by 6 points now, so you don't lose to just the province. Tilo could still potentially win if they hit province plus smuggling the estate. The downside to that is you're putting a estate in your shuffle, and you're also taking one debt because you had 4 money. Triumph costs 5 in debt, so that makes it harder to hit 8 next turn. I think the other option would just be buying something that makes it more likely for you to hit 8 because you're about to trigger a shuffle anyway. So buy another conspirator, for example. Um, would be the other reasonable choice there. Okay, we got a new kingdom. Let's take a look. Okay, this one's much stronger than the previous one. We're pretty lacking in the trashing department, only carpenter and only after a pile empties, so you're going to be struggling for thinning for a bit. That means you got to go pretty heavy on the draw, click Lost City and Lackeys a bunch, but eventually play a bunch of bridge trolls and you win the game. Oh, Alley plus Way of the Pig is a really notable synergy. So Alley is a shadow card. Shadow cards, whenever you shuffle your deck, they always go in the bottom of your deck, and then you can play them straight from the bottom of your deck as if they're in your hand. Um, Now you take any other card, like a Border Guard or Lost City or Lackeys, and you play it Way of the Pig. You're getting +1 card, +1 action. If you play Alley from the bottom of your deck without having drawn it into your hand first for +1 card, +1 action, you are effectively just getting the laboratory effect because, you know, as opposed to having the card in hand, which costs you one draw and getting +2 cards, this is just getting +1 card without drawing the card first. So Alley with Way of the Pig is actually just a $4 laboratory. Now, actually better than a $4 laboratory because it's always sitting there at the bottom of your deck. You can play it whenever you need it. It's like It's like an alchemist, where it's a lab that always top decks itself. So that looks excellent. So yeah, some combination of Alleys, Lost Cities, Lackeys, draw your deck. Carpenter can gain those, so that's potentially reasonable buy. Why open Carpenter if not gaining Alleys? What are they gaining with it? And if you're gaining, oh, they pigged it. Let me catch up. I don't think I like the silver buys at all. I mean, there are fives here that matter. Maybe it gets you to bridge troll. I really don't want silver in this deck. I would rather open with a Lackeys and take the slightly lower chance of hitting 5 than put a silver in the deck. Lackeys is a card I actively want and is also fairly helpful at hitting 5, whereas silver gives you to 5, but at a big cost of now you get a silver for the rest of the game. See, I don't like the silvers. I think the Carpenter open is reasonable because there's a bunch of cheap stuff that you want. You're not as likely to hit 5. I'm gonna vote Alley plus Lackeys. I think is my preferred open. I'd rather just get to Bridge Troll ASAP, but I don't hate the Carpenters. I do hate the silvers. Um, Oh, I'm not even there yet. So we're on turn four. What was in JMC's hand that provoked this? They had four coppers and a carpenter. Right. So they were wanting the 50-50 chance of hitting five, is what I'm inferring from this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard to like they're playing entirely too fast. Um the the turn I'm looking at is JMC's turn four, where they played Carpenter as way of the pick, which is weird. Um it looks like, oh, I've got four coppers in hand. My bottom two cards remaining in the deck at this stage of the game are one estate and one copper. So they play the Carpenter's Way of the Pig, hoping to draw the copper. They draw the estate instead. They're sad. They buy a silver, which is terrible, terrible, terrible. Um, but yeah, I think Brian's right in that if your main goal is to hit five, you should have just bought like a alley or a lackeys, which would have actually hit five here had you played it in place of the Carpenter. If you're open the Carpenter, it's presumably because you want to gain alley and or lackeys, and they didn't do that. Um, then they do play it in the game of silver. Silver is a very, very bad card here. Like, easily worse than nothing. I think there's a lot of kingdoms where you open like a silver or two to get to five, and then you pass up one silvers later. I think in this game, I don't even want a single silver. You have draw, but it's a little bit limited. There's just no trashing, and I think you just want to get to bridge troll. Play a bunch of bridge trolls. You won't need the money. I think every one of these silvers is making your deck much, much worse. I like Carpenter open. I think hitting five is less important than free labs, and later Carpenter is gaining fives. Um, Yeah, I mean, Carpenter is a reasonable open. The alternative, I think, is Alley Lackeys, which is pretty likely to hit five and trigger a shuffle on turn three, because you're for sure going to play the Alley, and then you're going to see, what, six of the other 11 cards, so you're more likely not to find your Lackeys. Then you're triggering a shuffle. You probably hit five, because you drew seven total of your starting cards. Then you buy a Bridge Troll, you shuffle it in, and then Bridge Troll is your gainer now. You play the Bridge Troll, and you can buy Carpenter plus Lackeys on the next turn, something like that. But yeah, I think Carpenter Lackeys would be a fine open. First BT is not as good as Carpenter, though. I don't think that's clear. I mean, Alley is the best card to gain, I think. I'd rather an Alley than a Lackeys, but like not by that much. Lackeys is still a very good card. And first Bristol you play can surely afford two Lackeys, probably a Lackeys and an Alley, for example. And then the upside, I think, is you're going to eventually want Bridge Troll more than you want Carpenter. Um, but yeah, I don't have any major problem with the Carpenter opening. Just what they've done with it. Okay, for some reason a King's Cash has been purchased. This is as bad as the silver. Worse than the silver, in fact, because if you bought a King's Cash, you could have bought a good card. Um, there's also a lot of Carpenter's gained, like a lot of Carpenter's gained. I'll point out, it seems like they haven't noticed the alleyway the pig's gonna do. They're playing the alley the normal way. So you get plus one card, plus one action, discard a card. When you could just get plus one card, plus one action if you played the alley using Way of the Pig. There's discarding cards for free to no effect. Gaining lackeys, okay. I'd probably play the alley here. Nope, we don't want to play the alley here. Uh, I mean, this could be a lackeys plus an alley, for example. If you play the alley, you're potentially getting to five, and that could be like a bridge troll plus a lackeys, which sounds a little bit better. Oh, uh, um, JMC? Because alley is non-terminal. It gives you an action back. You play the alley first, and then play the bridge troll. Everything's just right. Uh, They played the bridge troll first, then burned one of the two villagers they just gotten off of lackeys to play their alley. There's absolutely zero value in doing it in this order. Is wasted a villager for no possible upside. Why is there gold in this deck? I don't even see that. That's worse than the King's Cash. Who has the King's Cash? JMC. Not you too, Teela. This kingdom's gonna bring me pain. No, don't buy a province. There's so much Dominion left to be played. It's not time for that. Okay. I think we're too far gone. Nope. This is stressing me out. If you're going for the bridge troll strategy, which you should, bridge troll is a very strong card. Perhaps the single best payload card in Dominion. Like in terms of things that you want your deck to ultimately do, play a large number of bridge trolls might be number one on the list of things a deck could do. On average, up there with like Horn of Plenty and normal bridge and Inventor. Um, but if you want the bridge troll, like it scales non-linearly. I don't know which of those words is correct. Algebraically, geometrically, it scales uppity uh, very quickly. So you get increasing marginal returns with more and more bridge trolls. So you really want to commit to playing a bunch of bridge trolls, which means lots of draw, none of these yellow thingies, uh, and you just commit to the bridge troll strategy. You don't add a bridge troll into a deck that is full of silvers. I mean, it's still not terrible, but you're not really getting the full value out of it. Yeah, actually, if you're playing big money, bridge troll might be worse than buried treasure. Do we think he realizes Carpenter turns into a terminal card? Who and when are we talking about? So that is correct. I'm just missing the context. Which of these players? Oh, I see, I see. The question is, why does Teela have so many Carpenters? Aren't they about to become really bad? I mean, honestly, even the non-terminal version of Carpenter, I think, is not that good in large quantities. I think one or two Carpenters early looks fine to pick up some of the engine pieces, but even if they could gain a bunch of stuff, you don't really want that many Carpenters. It's like having 8 ironworks. Um, Although I imagine, maybe I'm the one being presumptuous, but to me, Teela sounds like a woman's name, not a guy's name. I had to hazard a guess. King's Cash on the Inspiring Farm. That's funny. I didn't even notice that. I mean, again, all the yellow cards are just so relevant in this kingdom that I blocked them out. If you could King's Cash farm, play the farm 3 times, and then could play 3 actions. It's like a really unnecessarily weak village, but you could do it. Am I wrong? Wait, this hasn't answered the question as of yet. Is this fictional character a man or a woman? Aha, I was right. Teela Brown is a fictional character created by Larry Niven in the Ringworld novels. Her sole qualification was that she was descended from 6 generations of lucky ancestors, winning winners of Earth's birthright lottery. Wasn't there some other player who had a Ringworld themed Dominion name? Maybe I'm mixing up with another novel series. Order Guard is quite a good card here, but I actually would not expect very many to be gained just because it's sitting next to Lackeys at the same price point, and I think Lackeys looks even better. Uh, like if Lackeys weren't here, I would expect a lot more Border Guards to be gained. If you have a lot of junk in your deck, the average Border Guard is going to be close to a Laboratory in value just because it's probably sifting past a lot of junk for you. But then Lackeys is also close to a lab in value. An alley is better than a lab in value. All right, the carpenters are going to work. Okay, so 3 provinces left. The score is 23 to 20. Hmm. Can JMC get to 8? We can. Okay. Oh, don't do that. No. So this actually could have gone even worse than it did. JMC had 8 money already, and then chose to voluntarily play an alley. I'm not sure, like, what card were you hoping to draw off of that? You didn't have, I guess you had extra buys. Maybe if you drew an extra silver, you could buy a lackeys or something. There's very little possible positive value in drawing a good card at the top of your deck. And if you leave the alley there, it's still going to be there at the bottom of your deck next turn, and you can play it on a turn where it's likely to have more value. I think playing this alley was just truly a mistake. This reminds me, I think it was JMC earlier who played the bridge troll and then played the alley. I feel like they've got this itchy trigger fingers. Like my action phase isn't over. It still wants me to play the alley. Can't click the end action phase button. There's still stuff to be done. And they just play the alley the first time they have an opportunity to. Okay, I think that was a reasonable province buy from Teela, although it looks like it's likely to result in a loss here. They were behind by more than a province worth of points. I think it was understandable gamble to try to take the penultimate province and hope that JMC misses. As it turns out, they just barely get to 8 here. All right, I believe that's 2-0 for jmcgnh. Or Bridge Troll. You didn't deserve that. Okay, game 3. If it just mirrors this kingdom really small and for no good reason. Not a lot of total stuff in it, but it feels like it's very zoomed out. Why is why is the view like that? Okay, so the big limitation here is there's absolutely no gains for a while until fortune is uncovered, and then fortune is plus buy. You're also pretty lacking on villages. Nobles is a village, but it's very bad at being a village. It's decent at being a laboratory. And then there's Bustling Village, which is hiding under settlers. But in a kingdom where there's no buys until late in the game, can you expect 5 $2 cards to be bought? That's not a guarantee. Um, oh, settlers would have been a good bit of art to use for the minion card art quiz. I don't think I would recognize any of those people at all out of a lineup. Have any of y'all tried the Empires iteration of the card art quizzes? Oh, there's a few of them actually. Anyways, this is a kingdom where I think you could realistically contemplate playing big money. Um, that's not a bad strategy. Uh, the quiz in question, it's one where you have to pick the real Dominion card art. It's like half Dominion cards and half Dominion fan cards. And the problem is like 95% of fan cards just go out on the internet and find the best looking art for their fan cards. And so they get really high quality, like computer rendered stuff. And then if I just picked a random fan card, you could easily get all the Dominion cards picking the worst looking art because the average quality of the Dominion cards is not the same level as the average quality of the fan cards. But I go out of my way to try to find fan cards with like a very Dominion-y, by which I mean kind of ugly style, so to make the quiz a little bit more challenging. Uh, that's the other thing. I think it was Marcus and had commented on it about trying to use the quality as a another um, metric. So there were a few of those where I intentionally took a unnecessarily low quality screenshot of the image, like zoomed out of it and then cropped it, because that was another thing that was giving it away was the quality of the zoom. Anyways, this kingdom, I think this kingdom you could realistically contemplate playing big money. I'm not. No, there's colony around. You probably have time to get to platinum. You got trashing, you got draw, you got actions. It's all fairly weak, but like there's time to make something happen here. Um, I think you build an engine. Uh, which means like if your opponent are playing big money, you gotta be able to take Gladiator. I actually would not mind triggering Fortune's bottom text effect. You play a Gladiator and buy a Fortune and gain a free gold. Not that you need the gold very much, but you could turn that into a Changeling, and then use Changeling to gain a second Fortune without paying another 16 coins worth of money. Fortune doesn't stack at all. Like if you play two fortunes, you only double your money once. It says if you having it this turn. But this is one of those kingdoms where the second fortune just being 0 coins plus one buy looks pretty helpful. Wouldn't mind having an extra buy in the deck. So yeah, I think you mostly click draw and actions for a while, and then eventually you grab a fortune. What did they do? Gladiator Stowaway, Monastery Werewolf. Um, I think Highwayman looks like a better open than Werewolf to me. The attack is actually kind of annoying early on when your opponent's trying to hit price points and then their first treasure does nothing. Um, I mean, Werewolf's not bad, but I think I prefer Highwayman Monastery. Actually, Werewolf's probably the worst of the 3/5s. The Rabble attack also matters. Certainly not playing Werewolf with the attack early on, so it's just a pure +3. Potentially more useful later. But yeah, I think Highwayman, Rabble, Werewolf is the order that I would go in. Gladiator Stowaway, I don't think I like very much. It's two terminals. I don't dislike the Gladiator because it's a card you might want later on, so you might as well take it early. Stowaway, I think I'm going to say is a no. It's a terminal action card that is competing for terminal space with more important stuff, like playing a Steward to trash or playing a Highwayman for draw. Um, let me get caught up a bit. Is it Teela took a second monastery? No, JMC had the monastery. Yeah, okay, that then the first monastery makes sense. Highwayman. Uh, so far this is looking all right. I don't see any golds gained, and only one silver's been taken. I can tolerate a single silver here. You do want to hit 5 and 6 a bunch. Changeling on 3 is an interesting choice. This gladiator will hit 5. You want a steward? No. Um, I would probably open with steward on the 3/4 split, just to get trashed fast. Um, the upside of monasteries is non-terminal in a deck with very limited terminal space. Um, but yeah, I think you probably ought to have opened with steward. I think. Also, like, I wouldn't. I mean, not that Settlers is an important card or anything, but I wouldn't mind buying a Settlers. So you still have something to do on the turn that you play the Steward, because you probably hit 2 that turn. Okay, Fortune has been revealed. Probably click that the first time you hit 8. How long will it be till one of them hits 8? We shall find out. Okay, one of them has 2 gladiators. I'm not sure which one that is, but I think that's definitely wrong. 2 gladiators is a lot of gladiators. Gladiator is a terminal action, which means it's competing with Werewolf and Highwayman. Um, and it's just a silver, maybe a gold if you're lucky. That's not anything special. I think one gladiator is fine because it gets you to fortune, potentially lets you be the first mover on fortune, and maybe it comes with a gold. 2 gladiators is just a lot of gladiators to have. Like to play a gladiator in your deck, you basically have to have an extra noble. So it's not a $3 gladiator; it's a $9 gladiator. Um, it's a big cost. Anyways, I think I missed some stuff up here. I think Ravel's a better open because the Highwayman keeps itself out of shuffles, so it gets played less. Uh, I don't think there's any difference there. Both a Highwayman and a Rabble go back into the shuffle before turn 5, and if you play in turn 3, and both of them miss the shuffle if you play them turn 4. I think the biggest difference is Highwayman's attack seems better to me than Rabble's attack. Yeah, so like turn 4, if you got 2 cards left, you discard Highwayman, then you draw 3 cards. Highwayman's already back in that shuffle. The text says discard this from play and plus 3 cards rather than the reverse order. It's Teela. Teela has the bonus gladiator. I just can't help but observe that neither of those two gladiators was played this turn, because you don't have any villages and just a lot of terminals. Look at this Highwayman stopping JMC from getting to 8. 7's still a good number. I think you want as many nobles as you can get your hands on. Play the stowaway, buy nobles. Does haunting matter here? Maybe is even helpful. I'm gonna say you top deck the gladiator, play the stowaway. Yeah. You're not accomplishing much this turn either way. Oh, no, no, no. I thought we were on the same wavelength. We were on very different wavelengths. You top decked a gladiator. You knew for sure that you want a steward? Kind of emphasize that those actions are all terminal. You just had the problem of having 3 terminal actions in hand, and you couldn't play 2/3 of your actions. And then you bought another terminal action called in 3. Don't like the steward by 1 bit. Um, yeah, you play a werewolf, knowing for sure you're drawing the steward, or not the steward, the gladiator dead. Knowing for sure you're not getting any reasonable number because you only have 2 money in hand. I'm not sure what the possible upside of that werewolf was supposed to be. I think you top deck the gladiator, you play this stowaway. Now you got +2 cards coming in next turn. You got a gladiator on top next turn. You probably have some chance of hitting 8 on that following turn, and you get a werewolf attack. It's a little bonus. Okay, here we go. This could amount to something. Keep on going. That's 8. Unfortunately, not with gladiator in play, so you don't get the gold. I think you still take fortune here. Why did why did you draw? What were you hoping to draw? What do you buy here is Teela. Settlers? I think buying Changeling actually seems okay here. I don't really want more silvers very much, but I do want more nobles. If that Changeling becomes a nobles, it pays for itself. Don't think I would have played that werewolf. I definitely would not have bought that studio. These decks, like at some point, you got to look at your hands and realize every hand I'm having these excessive terminal collisions and stop doubling down. Okay, there is 1 gold missing from the supply. If you thought about this a little bit harder, you could have figured out which of these cards gives you a 100% guarantee of activating the Gladiator effect. There is no possible way Tila could have had gold in hand. I guess it doesn't really make any difference, right? There's a difference between 6 and 7. 6 versus 7 has no impact. Maybe they just wanted to show off their monastery. Trash the Gladiator, please. You don't need that. You don't want that. Thorn in your side. Be done with it. No! Okay. We're not at 8 quite yet. This would be 8 if not for the Highwayman attack. I think you just trash here with the Steward. Maybe by the last nobles. Yeah, that's probably. Why do you keep doing that? Okay, firstly, like, what is down there that you're wanting to draw? I'm not sure. But if if you wanted to draw the steward, they had a highwayman and a steward in play. They could have drawn with the steward first, and then if they drew into the two nobles, they could have played a nobles for action, they could have played a nobles for draw, and then they could have played the highwayman. For no reason at all, there's no scenario where there's ever an upside. They played the highwayman first, and then they played the steward, and then they drew into their deck with no actions left, guaranteeing that whatever they drew was going to be a dead card. More stu You can't handle that. Look at your hand. Your hand is four unused action cards you couldn't play. Why are you adding a fifth one? One of these players needs to do the public service of uncovering Bustling Village so that they can both build functional decks. Not that you need settlers here very much. Uh, this game would be going a lot better for the both of them if there were Bustling Village around. Okay, got a fortune. I'm actually not entirely convinced you buy fortune there over just the last nobles. It's a reasonable choice for sure. Uh, but nobles is like the one card both of these decks most need, given their extreme over terminal problems. There's one of them left, and then maybe the next time you hit 8, you could have your gladiator in play, and you get the free change thing off of the fortune. Once again, this time it actually potentially does matter, right? Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, it would have gotten you a free settlers, which is, I mean, not a big deal, but just the principle of the matter. You know for fact that if you revealed the goal, your opponent could not have blocked. Alrighty, slowly but surely we are getting somewhere. Can I just emphasize, even in a hand where you have the nobles, playing nobles for +2 actions and playing steward. Oops, I didn't mean to do whatever it is I did. Go away, reading mode. And then playing steward for +2 cards. That's just breaking even. You're not advancing your deck at all. You spent 2 cards and 2 actions, getting 2 cards and 2 actions. That is just spinning your wheels. This did absolutely nothing. Which means even in the good case, the steward is bad for your deck. What do you need here? I don't think it's colony time. Piles are not that low. I would have thought about like a platinum and a changeling with intent to change the changeling into a second fortune. Now we need to trash. We can only trash one thing. All right, fine. The gladiator lives another day, but I expect the gladiator to be killed any minute now. Now that you get your fortune, you certainly don't need the gladiator anymore. Okay, perfect. We got a gladiator in hand. We got a monastery in hand. A natural match for one another. And you're going to buy a fortune. You're going to gain a second thing. You get to trash a gladiator and a copper. Maybe Maybe the stowaway is actually worse for your deck than the copper is. For sure you trash the gladiator, but I think you could consider trashing the stowaway given that it's not getting played anyway. JMC pretending to think. You don't have a stowaway. Who are you kidding? Turn that into a changeling. Post haste. Oh, you just want the gold. And the copper. I knew that was what was gonna happen, but part of me believed maybe they would have learned the lesson by now. Look at these stewards. Imagine these stewards weren't in your deck. Ay. Oh yeah, still leave me the steward's a great card. It trashes stewards. That was my mistake. I overlooked the main value of steward in this kingdom. JMT seems to be ahead, I would think. Uh, for sure play the Highwayman, right? Yeah, I gotta play the Highwayman. You can trash the Gladiator with the Monastery. Going off your fortune. Teela has one, but this is a reasonable reveal, even though there's, again, the colony in hand, which there's only the one copy of. Uh, from JMC's perspective, you actually do know with 100% certainty that Teela does not have the fortune in hand because they just bought it and they have not triggered a shuffle since then. So it's somewhere in their discard. Two platina. That's a lot of platina. I'd really rather another plus buy card. Like if platinum plus fortune, I thought would have been a reasonable buy there. Could just be platinum plus changeling even to gain a fortune, but you had the money. I think platinum plus fortune, I think would be a totally fine buy. Or werewolf plus fortune. Um, I'm actually not totally sure about the werewolf. I noticed on that turn they were playing a bunch of nobles for draw, which you in this particular game would rather not do, even though that's the better function of nobles in the abstract. Um, if you have more werewolves, you can use all your nobles for actions and then the werewolves for draw or rabbles. I don't think I'm loving the spell scroll background. I like spell scroll's art; it looks nice, but I think just at a glance, it's got too similar of a color scheme to the Swamp Hag background, and I hated the Swamp Hag background. I had bad memories of the Swamp Hag background. That was the default background for the longest time. I don't know if it's still the default, but it certainly was for a while. Let me find a better background. 23. What this is reckless? I think 23 is reckless. It's not a bad background. 22. Maelstrom looks cool. Abundance, I'm not a big fan of. It's okay. Gamble, love the card. The art's only okay. This is Way of the Horse. It's all right. 18. This looks like the Sky's Gift, I think. It's all right. Which one's the leader at the moment? I think Reckless is probably the best of the ones I've looked at so far. Where did you replicate Akuchi's wrong number associated to the background by clicking really fast? In a past video, there was a brief moment where you did replicate Akuchi's wrong number associated to the background by clicking really fast. Let me try that. Akuchi was off by like 10 numbers or something though. I There's like a little bit of lag, but like not that much, like a second or so. Okay, so Swamp Hag used to be number one, I'm pretty sure. It looks like is this Inheritance? Inheritance is a much better choice for a default background. I'm glad that one's number one now. I'm not a big fan of the Swamp Hag. Um, Fauna Woods I used for the longest time. It's all right. There weren't too many options. I used to use Dungeon back in the day. It's pretty drab, but it's okay. Rebuild is ugly, just badly CGI. Um, this is one of the box arts. 6 is one of the box arts. I don't know which one. It's okay. 7. What is this? It's not Lost City. I think this is from Allies. Uh, what is this? Is this set in India? I associate the like woman carrying a pot on her head with the Indian subcontinent. There's an interesting looking building back there. I don't know what this art is. Totally drawing a blank. Anyone know what 7 is? Come back to that. 8? What is 8? Is that Theatum? I feel like I probably asked these questions in the last time I was looking at the artwork. Um, and I've since forgotten. I'm gonna guess this is Theatum with very low confidence. Maybe it's territory? I think Theatum. Could be very off on that. 9. 9 is a village. This capital city, lost city, some sort of city. I don't think it's lost city. I think it's capital city. Gosh, what is this? It's saying village to me. Maybe it is capital city? Gosh, I don't know. Now, this is one of the OG backgrounds, so it's probably not capital city. Really, I don't know the artwork very well. 10 is definitely not a card. 11 is trail. It's all right. 12. Oh, this was like seaside something or other, wasn't it? I remember this one came up. 13, Architects Guild. Okay. 14, Commerce, I think. Man, Commerce looks so much worse up close. You just notice that all these people have no identifiable features. Don't like that one bit. Distant Shore looks nice. Like that one. Anvil, it's all right. Seize the Day. I think I've caught up. And are there any Path 24? I got Swamp Shacks. And all right, back to 0. I'll go with Swamp Shacks for the time. No, I'm gonna have the same problem, which is it's gonna remind me of Swamp Hag. I think Swamp Hag or Swamp Shacks would be perfectly fine if not for the fact that it's a bad memories of Swamp Hag background being in the background for a long time. I'll go with Reckless. Okay. All right, there's a game happening. All right, looks like JMC is way in the lead. It is turn 25. Bustling Village has been revealed. Um, all right, that is a colony. This nobles does nothing. Don't draw. Why do you? What were you hoping to draw there? You had enough for a colony. There was no way you were getting to 2 colonies. Just play the highwayman. I think you could pretty safely throw in the towel here as Teela. Also, look at these 2 gladiators in hand. You weren't going to play those 2 gladiators. They shouldn't have been in your hand. You should have trashed them any number of times on previous turns. One did not. Did not what? Ah, that one did not feel very close. That kingdom I thought was a pretty good lesson in managing your terminal space. You can't just only buy actions that are all terminal and have no plans to play them all. You just get hands full of Gladiator, Gladiator, Highwayman, and then just every hand is a brick. Oh, might this only be a half match? I don't think they indicated as much, but my impression is that JMC often plays 3 games at a time. I think this is the match. All right, well, 3-0 for JMC. That's the game. Oh, never mind. Apparently JMC was not up on the news that it was time to leave. They're making a new table? Why? Well, I'm the host now. I can choose the table. Uh, Intriguing. Okay, I see what's happening. My first guess had been that they were playing three games at a time. Uh, Never done that myself, but it seems a lot more common at the lower levels. Some folks just like a three-game match, and you play twice as many total matches because you have to play six in total per person. Uh, what I think in fact happened was uh, we crossed an hour threshold. The server changed, and so they had to create a new table on the new server. Oh well, where are they at? Any minute now, I'll figure out what's going on. They're not here yet. They can't see that. Alrighty. Mhm. I found it. I'm not sure how it knows the previous chat. The chat log is not specific to the table. It's just all the chat that you've seen. So if you leave one table and go to another table, but you're still in the same login session, you'll see all your previous chat history. Okay, game four. Him, I said, okay, game four. I think we're all on the same page. Oh no, not Swindler. All right, well, this is occasion to look at their ban lists. There's only one total card banned between the two players, which is possession. Not a bad card to ban. Surely there's more than the one card you don't like, right? There's plenty of other good candidates for banning. Chief among them, Swindler. Worst card in Dominion. Not even close. Uh, Nasty, nasty card. On the dislike, how do you dislike Transmute? Transmute's such a likable card. It's a strong card, but it's a fun card. Everyone likes Transmute. Masquerade, I don't like Masquerade. I endorse disliking Masquerade. Philosopher's Stone, okay. I mean, it just this is the one card to me that is just like a true nothing card. You never get it in any context. Functionally, it's like you're playing with a nine card kingdom once in every however often. So disliking that's not unreasonable. And Apothecary, how do you not like Apothecary? I was just apropos of nothing. I was talking about how much I liked Apothecary in game one. Um, Interesting choice there. Okay. Hard to say too much serious about this kingdom. Swindler kingdoms are not serious kingdoms. You're playing roulette, Russian roulette more specifically. Can't really formulate a strategy. Doesn't matter what cards you buy, your deck is not going to resemble the cards you intended to buy in any case. Um, Opening Poet Silver just has to be wrong. Why let your opponent build a real deck? They're going to do evil things to you. You should at least reciprocate the favor. Um, there's a lot of ways to give out curses here. Kitsune, Soothsayer, Idol, Charlatan, Swindler. Half the cards in this kingdom give out curses. What a nasty, nasty kingdom. I actually don't like opening Swindler because of the yellow curses. What would you open with instead? On 3/4, you could consider like Clan Poet, maybe? Yeah, did they have the 3/4 or the 4/3? They both have the 4/3. So you open with Poet and then put Plan on something else, maybe. Um, just comparing it to Silver, Swindler seems basically strictly better than Silver. I mean, obviously it's terminal, but I don't think I care about the other terminals that much. Probably the next 5 years Quicken is Kitsune. But yeah, it could reasonably be the case that you'd rather open Plan. Kind Emperor is going to be active soon, and the Kingdom gets even worse because that means now all the Kitsunes are going straight to your hand. Ah, Soothsayer just seems a lot worse than Kitsune to me, right? I mean, I don't even know. I don't do Swindler. It's hard to say anything intelligent about Swindler Kingdoms. There's not strategy to be had. Maybe the goal is just put a bunch of gold in your deck because gold can't be swindled. You just gain another gold. In any real Kingdom of Dominion, Kitsune would be hands down much better than Soothsayer. Um, you'd rather 2 coins immediately than gaining a gold that's chunking your deck, and drawing your opponent a card is a pretty big drawback. Plus, Kitsune is just a lot more flexible. Like you draw them in multiples, you're not sad. Oh, that's so sad. Uh, the Soothsayer drew a beggar, and beggar can react to an attack play. But the window where you react with a card like beggar is it says first. So immediately when they play the Soothsayer, you reveal your beggar and you get your 2 silvers. Um, but if you draw into the beggar mid Soothsayer resolution, it's too late to reveal your beggar. Know what you buy here. Most of the threes are semi-comparable in power, and the only four is poet. Changeling looks like a pretty bad silver to gain early on. Do you just buy provinces here? These decks are never gonna be like a functional deck. Not only because of Swindler and all the cursing, but also like there's minimal draw, there's no plus buy, there's something to build to. I don't think it'd be unreasonable to just buy provinces and try to end the game on provinces. Is this in like a counterfactual world where they're playing with plan from the beginning, or like if you were handed one of these decks starting right now, you'd still go for colonies? All right, here go the last 2 curses. Aha! The beggar is. I'm not even. Silver is not a bad card here, but it's not an especially good card either. I mean, certainly from turn one, I'm on board with try to thin a little bit more using plan, try to get a platinum or two, and then try to get some colonies. And I think I would prefer that over the province game plan. Uh, these decks are full of soothsayers and golds, which just seems a lot better at hitting 8. I think I could rush down the provinces before the opponent gets their deck together and contest that with colonies. I mean, if you hit 11, maybe you think about it. It just comes up naturally at some point. I don't think I'd be going out of my way to buy colony over province, at least from this stage in the game onward. That, that soothsayer is just pure gain of gold, which is not an effect worth paying 5 for. Um, and not at this state of the game either. Like we're getting very close to the greening phase. I think justifiably you could have even greened the last turn or two. I think you'd much prefer any of the other fives. Like Kitsune is gaining you silvers instead of gold, but it's giving you 2 money immediately, which is a very big difference. Idol, same thing. Charlatan is a gold. I mean, it's a terminal gold. But even that I think looks better than Soothsayer. Kind Emperor makes hitting province or colony pretty easy. I'm not sure I believe that. I'm just looking at these hands that don't have anywhere near 8 money in them and thinking, if I added a Charlatan to these hands, I still wouldn't be hitting 11. How do you get favors for Coastal Haven? Yeah, Underling looks pretty good here. Um, if you hit not quite 11, you set aside your gold or something and shoot for 11 next turn. I don't think turning a state into a beggar is a attack. That seems like an improvement. Like if beggar got me to 11, I'd happily play the beggar. Obviously, 3 coppers is bad, but these decks are already totally out of control anyway. Inevitable result of moving the plan token after the poet's pile. Having a good opponent. What is the inevitable result of moving the plan token after poet's pile from having a good opponent? Oh, I see. You plan poet first, you trash a bunch. Underling is a natural second place to move the pile. Yeah. Yeah, I think Underling looks like a reasonable card in this deck. Ah, look at this. This is 11. And with an action to spare. What do you get? I think Underling might be the best card you can get in a hand here for jmcgnh. You don't need a Kitsune or a Charlatan or anything. You already have 11. If you took a Soothsayer, I mean, I guess you could play a Soothsayer, but like, you're at the very top of your shuffle. That's not paying off in time. I think the best card to put in hand here is probably an Underling. Will they choose Underling? Let's find out. Choose wisely. Unfortunately, you can't gain a Changeling in the hand. You could gain an action card and exchange it for a Changeling, but even though the action card is gained to hand, and you exchange it for Changeling, the Changeling will go to your discard. If you could gain a Changeling straight to hand, I think that'd be a pretty reasonable choice. You could turn that into a Platinum, which maybe is better than Underling. I'm not even convinced that's true. Um, an Underling you get to play immediately, and then you have the favor for whenever you most need it in this next shuffle. Might just be better than a Platinum that you have in 5 turns. I think from like this point onwards, for jmcgnh and probably for Teela as well, this is just like 100% green eight. Like any card you're buying here is going into a discard pile you're not seeing for at absolute minimum 4 turns. Uh, there's just not enough payoff for that. Plus, you're just getting a steady stream of stuff off of Kind Emperor. I think either you want to hit 8 and buy a province or 11 and buy a colony, whichever the best one you can do is. Don't discard that beggar. You needed that beggar. That beggar was going to get you to province. I'm not even sure if silver qualifies as blocking swindle. The average card in your deck isn't actually all that more swindleable. What you buy here is JMCGNH. Buy an underling. You could put plan on something. Then if you have another hand like this, like if you drew this exact hand again next turn, you could buy whatever you planned and then trash it first. I think I would probably put plan on underling here. In all likelihood, it doesn't end up mattering. Oh, I forgot about kind emperor. Does that change things? I still think underling looks like the best thing to gain here. I think underling in hand, except that this turn is going nowhere. Set aside a copper or something. Try to hit a big number next turn. Plan. Plan on Kitsune. That's an okay target. You're never going to buy a Kitsune, but you could be gaining it to hand in various contexts with Kind Emperor, depending on what your hand looks like. Maybe it trashes the curse. We've trashed our beggar. And imagine we had that beggar in hand. We could hit colony. No, you don't need a platinum right now. Again, you're not seeing that platinum anytime soon. This is like 3 to 4 more turns worth of cards before you see platinum for the first time. You play it maybe once before the game ends. I think that certainly should have just been a province. I don't like this order. Not that it's a big deal or anything, but why would you ever play this card before a poet? Just as it, there have certainly been much worse infractions of this in previous games, like the Bridge Troll followed by Alley play, or the Highwayman followed by Steward play. But as a rule of thumb, you play the cards that give you information first, and then you play the cards that utilize information second. It's like drawing cards gives you new information. You see what card you were going to draw. And then a card like Kitsune, where you have different choices, relies on information. You want to know how much money do I have in hand to know whether I need to choose +2 coins or not to get to 11. If I was hitting 11 anyway, maybe I choose to gain a silver or something. Uh, so just on principle, it should feel extremely off-putting to ever play a Kitsune before a poet. Like, why would you want to do it in that order? There's no upside to that, and only a potential downside that maybe you drew a card that changes the choice that you're going to make. Right. This is 11 in hand for JMCGNH. I think you probably just gain a Kitsune and trash the Soothsayer. Soothsayer is certainly not a good card at this point. And you do, JMC is also in the lead, so you do want to lower the Kitsune pile. Definitely give them that Soothsayer back. Soothsayer is not even close to worst 5 here. No, you just improved their deck for them. Idle makes money. Soothsayer does not make money. Very easy equation. I just think about that Soothsayer. It is worse than nothing on that next turn because it is taking up a spot that could have been something else. Could have been a silver. Could have been an idol. 0 money, dead card in hand. Plus, it takes an action to play if you want to play it. Assuming you do have the actions to play it, well, now next shuffle you have a Soothsayer and a Gold. That's taking up 2 spots in your deck. It's giving you 3 money. That's 1.5 money on average for those 2 cards. Um, that's not good. It's not even particularly good in a province game. In Colony, that's still not great. So like for that Soothsayer to have time to pay off, You gotta like play it, gain a gold, play it again, gain two golds, and then have time for those golds to make you money. Like you have to plan to have like three or four more shuffles worth of game left before the Soothsayer even has a positive value in your deck to be better than nothing, let alone better than an idol. And this does not look like a game that has three or four more shuffles worth of game left to play. Like each of these shuffles is like 5 or 6 turns for these decks. If only there were plus buy. Okay, please, please spin all these favors. You have way more money than you need. Set aside all the rest of it. No, 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 undo, 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 no! Oh no. Oh no, look at all these favors. You have 5 favors. They had 19 money, I believe. Yeah. Two from Kitsune, plus 15, plus the idol. They could have set aside 8 money next turn, which is a 100% guarantee of another colony. Because even if you found 0 money in hand, you could gain a charlatan to hand. Alright, yeah, this is the win here. JMC just needs to buy a province. They have more than enough for a colony. Looks like there wasn't time for this to matter. Also, just a secondary point, but usually you should be playing your idol before you play the other treasures. Uh, if you look at the boons, there's a few boons where it matters. It's like Earth's Gift, for example. If you wanted to gain something off of Earth's Gift, you'd rather have copper still in your hand. Or Flame's Gift. You had that curse in your hand that you played. You could have potentially trashed that if you got Flame's Gift. Sky's Gift. Maybe you want to discard some stuff. Wind's Gift. Maybe you draw into some platinums. You'd rather discard the coppers from your hand. There's a lot of boons where it benefits you to play the idol first, see what boon you get, and then play the rest of your treasures. There's a few contexts where the reverse order makes sense, but mostly idle first is correct. I didn't even see that coming. The Kitsune pile out? Was that not intentional? I thought that's what you were doing for like the last 4 turns. Okay, 4-0 for jmcgnh. Going into the last turn. All right. So we got Trashing the Sentinel and Hideout, potentially Carpenter later. You got Draw with Silk Merchant or Wishing Well, and I mean, Distant Shore to an extent. There's a few of those at the bottom of the Odysseys pile. Uh, Villages or Coin of the Realm or Hideout. Plus buy comes from Silk Merchant or Fair. This kingdom looks okay. You got everything you need, none of it's super strong. To me, the most important card here, shockingly, is Silk Merchant. You play a bunch of Silk Merchants, good things should happen. Seems like the main goal. Opening, I would think, is either Sentinel Carpenter or Sentinel Silk Merchant are the two things I'd be thinking about. I want a bunch of Silk Merchants, but potentially opening Carpenter first to get you more of them because then Carpenter gains them. Upside of Sentinel Silk Merchant is you're less likely to bottom deck your Sentinel. More likely to play at turn 3 in particular. Teela opened with an old map. I don't like that. Old map is uh Old map Carpenter is not a bad opening. Like if the most important thing for your deck to be doing turn 3 and turn 4 were playing a Carpenter, I think old map Carpenter would make a lot of sense. Because old map just cycles you to the other card. So like old map plus a card you really, really want to play is a good combination. Old map Silver not Silver, old map Sentinel, for example, would be a good opening. Um but here, like the most important thing to do early is just trash all your junk. And so I think Sentinel is just absolutely mandatory. I think old map Sentinel will be a fine opening. Any opening that doesn't involve Sentinel is surely a mistake. Looks like JMC did the same thing. Without a good village, I don't want too many Silk Merchants, and Wishing Well sucks, so I'd prefer not opening Carpenter. Uh, I think there's enough villages to not worry about that. I mean, with Silk Merchant, you can play fast and loose on villages anyway because you got all the villagers to work with. Like early one, you can add a hideout for a minute, and then it helps you trash. And then later, Coin of the Realm will be just fine. Voyage seems like a pretty good card here, I would think. They both have a copy. JMC has two copies. I think I'd probably just play with the one. I think you eventually get enough deck control that you your one voyage consistently enough. Desperation for Gatekeeper. Don't think I like that. Uh, Gatekeeper. Admittedly, I dabble in Gatekeeper myself, but it is on the weaker end of cards. Um, Meanwhile, the threes are perfectly fine. Um, if you had five mod Gatekeeper, I'd say okay, fine, I guess. Taking a curse for it, that's a pretty steep downside. Rather than buy Wishing Well or a Coin of the Realm. I want to see a Gatekeeper Marauder Order interaction. Yeah, that'd be funny. So if you have Marauder and Gatekeeper in the same hand, you definitely should play the Marauder first. Because if you play a Gatekeeper and then you play the Marauder, your Gatekeeper will actually block the Marauder attack. They'll be able to exile the ruins that they were otherwise going to gain. Yeah, thinning is winning, so they say. Maybe Teela will take a hideout? No, 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 no. No, don't you dare. No! Oh, no! I saw it come. I saw the desperation. The number went to six. Oh no. You just put two curses in your deck. Oh, that was so upsetting. Oh, mm-mm-mm. I think on. I don't like Oasis at all. I wasn't even thinking about Oasis. I think the choice between Wishing Well and Coin of the Realm. If you play Wishing Well, it'll probably hit one in every like three plays, maybe. Wish for Copper early, Silk Merchant or something later. Uh, it's hard for Wishing Well to be worse than nothing, so it's a reasonable buy. I think I would probably prefer to buy Coin of the Realm on three, so that I can just very aggressively click Silk Merchant every time I see four or more money. I just want all the Silk Merchants, and then I want enough coins of the realm to support those. It's certainly not Oasis. I think the choices were Coin or Wishing Well there. Speaking of which, Carpenter, gain a Silk Merchant. Play Silver, Coin of the Realm, buy a second Silk Merchant, because you'll have a coffer already generated. Two silvers. That's not good. That's bad. That's like a gold. It's a lot like a gold, in fact. All right, two more Silk Merchants. Let's go. Sentinel, okay, quite late, but better late than never. And another trash. I can get behind this. Yeah, those are good gains. Maybe we're learning from the school of hard knocks. It's like, oh shoot, I just put a gold and a curse into my deck. I need to fix things ASAP. And that was the swift kick in the rear they needed to finally buy some trashers. Soap Merchant is still. I think Soap Merchant should be empty at this point. Like by turn seven, I think there should not be Soap Merchants left in the pile. Um, One has been gained so far. For anyone who's not in the know, this card is just like literally the strongest card in all of Dominion. Like if you look at it, like it is unassuming. I remember when this card first released, uh, nobody clocked it as being particularly powerful. It was like ranked middle to low tier on the Renaissance initial power rankings when the community went and rated them. And then you realize, wait, every game the slip merchants pile out. Every time I gain slip merchants, good things happen. And you look at the stats and it gets gained in like 98% of games, and those games go super fast. And at some point you come around and you realize, man, this card is kind of good. And it's just always good. There's like never context where you don't want that. Um, I think an easy way to see this is like proof by induction. Is it good in the opening? Yes. You consider just like the turn one case. If you buy Silk Merchant and a silver, for example, you are literally 100% guaranteed to hit five on turn three or turn four, and you're super likely to hit double fives in any game where that matters. Because if you find the Silk Merchant anywhere in your top 10 out of 12 cards, you're almost certainly going to hit five and four, and you can spend a copper on the $4 turn to get that to a $5 turn. That's an excellent opening, and any kingdom with the fives are good. Then you consider uh, the n plus one case, just distant future turn where the game's about to end, and you've got like one shuffle left. You gain a soap merchant. The villager covers the fact that it's terminal, so it's like a laboratory the one time you play it. Plus it comes with a coffer. Plus it costs less. Plus it has a plus buy. It's an excellent card to gain. Or if you're already in your last shuffle, like let's say there's two turns left in the game, you're not going to shuffle your deck before the game ends. You could buy a King's Court and it wouldn't matter because you're not going to play it. Soap merchant gives you a coffer immediately for the very next turn. So it's great turn one. It's great in the last turn of the game, and then you can just infer that it must be good every other turn in the middle there. Ergo, it's a good card. All right, we finally saw a second one get gained. Where are the spoils coming from? Oh, you have a Marauder. I don't think Marauder is any good here. The trashing is strong. If you play with the Marauder, I play with Hideout. I'm happy to have a Hideout in my deck. It's a village. Marauder is quite weak. That's kind of funny. Uh, Distant Shore, I think you'd probably rather have it in your deck than not. Um, it's kind of like the reverse of the Soothsayer effect. It looks bad because you're gaining a state every time and you're junking yourself. And it's obviously not good over the long term. But by the time in the game you're gaining a distant shore, it's often perfectly fine to be gaining in a state. It's like the first turn it's in your deck, it's like a laboratory. You drew a card, you state went to your discard, you didn't see it yet. Then you consider the second shuffle through your deck. Well, it's a laboratory, but now you've got an estate in your deck. So it's just kind of breaking even because it's giving you plus one draw to draw through the one estate that had already gained you in the previous shuffle. The first time it's really net hurting you is the third shuffle that it's in your deck, where now it's drawing you one card, but you've got two estates in your deck already. So it takes a while for this to be a net bad trade-off, and you get to draw up front. All that being said, it's not really tragic that it got exiled, even though there's no way to ever rescue it again, because there's no way to gain distant shores here once they're out. Because I mean, you just got two victory points straight to your mat, as opposed to like a duchy clogging your deck. Uh, what? So the voyage turn is the reason we didn't play everything. But the one card we chose to play there was the gold. So gold lets you get a three cost card, but I can't help but notice that you had a carpenter in your hand. You had an action left to play it with too. Wouldn't have cost a villager because you already played a village. You could have gained a four cost card, a particularly strong four cost card, might I add. We're not really in the end game yet, but you do have to be a little bit careful with desperation around in the end game. This thing tends to push scoring a little bit sooner rather than later, at least in kingdoms where there's not other cursing, and there isn't really here, aside from like voluntary cursing from hideout. Uh, like if you start provincing on the sooner side, desperation helps you get across the finish line Your deck starts to fall apart and you're only hitting 6 instead of 8. But then you can take a few curses in the last few turns to keep hitting 8 a little bit longer. Um, and so Desperation will reward the players a little bit greedier than usual. Okay, Silk Merchant, I approve. Lovely Sentinel. Absolutely lovely Sentinel. And play the Gatekeeper. I wouldn't even. Oh, no, we got a coin in the realm. I was going to say I wouldn't even waste a Villager on Marauder. But you've also got the coin down. So we spent a coffer and gained a curse. Get that Gatekeeper. You really, really want a Gatekeeper. I don't think I want a Gatekeeper that much. All right, we got 5 money. What do you buy with 5 money? Silk Merchant. I'd probably just buy a Silk Merchant here. It'll get exiled by the opponent's Gatekeeper. That's not a big deal. You can get it back later. You get the coffer and villager immediately, even if it goes to the exile mat. What else are we thinking of buying? It's a little bit early to want a duchy. You're about to shuffle, and provinces are still at 8. Piles aren't super low. Um, Desperation. What are you wanting for 7? I'm so confused. So you could have afforded the Sunken Treasure anyway, which that's going to get exiled. Um, we took a Desperation just to afford a Coin of the Realm. Did you? You have 4. You have 4 whole coins on your mat. You're all coined up. You're so thoroughly coined. You did not need that 5th coin. You certainly did not need the 5th coin so much that you were willing to take a curse to get it. I mean, this Coin of the Realm is basically a copper. They do not need the village effect. They're villaged out the wazoo. They just took a curse to buy a copper. Um, I also don't like the sunken treasure super much, or at all really. So for starters, it's one of those cards, like the soothsayer sort of effect, where if you want this to pay off, you got to be playing it early because like it's not helping you get points. It can't gain province or duchy. It's helping you get actions, and the actions help you get points. So you got to play the sunken treasure early enough that you're getting the actions that you're then playing the actions that are having a net positive value to counteract the negative value of putting a sunken treasure in your deck. Um, the big caveat to that is I think Sunken Treasure can often be a good gain, even reasonably late in the game, when there are Distant Shores left in the pile. Because Distant Shore is wherever it is, a victory card that often you don't have in your deck early because it's at the bottom of the Odysseys pile. So you take a Sunken Treasure, and then in the end game, your Sunken Treasure is gaining you Distant Shores, which is a decent amount of points. And that's often the best case scenario for later game Sunken Treasure. Distant Shore is already gone, so that doesn't apply here. And importantly, they bought the Sunken Treasure with a Gatekeeper in play, which means it gets exiled. Which means for this to be valuable, first of all, it's not going to be useful next shuffle because you're not even going to have it in your deck next shuffle. But also, you have to buy a second Sunken Treasure just to get the first one out of the exile mat. To even play the first one. Now you get 2 of them in your deck, and it's going to take even longer for that to pay off in value. I think best case scenario now is just you don't even get this back. It was just a wasted buy. Maybe worse than nothing to put 2 of them in your deck this late in the game. Alright, so curses will probably run out soon from desperation. Estates will run out from distant shore. There's not a third pile that's all that low. Coin is kind of low, but they don't have many silk merchants. They don't have a lot of plus buy. That pile might actually not run very quickly. Unfortunately, Carpenter is not quite active yet. Would not mind remodeling the voyage otherwise. Silk merchant, please, please, silk merchant. No, that you get the first three letters right. Right, it's not too, you can buy a silk merchant. It'll get exiled because you didn't first gain a silk merchant. But you'll still get the copper from the villager. Don't you want a silk merchant? No, I'm not surprised if they're willing to take the first one, knowing it was going to exile. They're probably going to take a second one. But you really shouldn't have taken the second. You shouldn't have taken the first one. You shouldn't have taken any of those. Alrighty, 4 money, just enough for a silk merchant. Have I mentioned recently that silk merchant's a good card? It's either silk merchant or duchy. It is absolutely and unequivocally not Marauder. Uh, it's another one of those cards where if you're ever getting Marauder, it should probably be early in the game because it does nothing at all on play. So for it to pay off for your deck, you got to play it, you got to gain the spoils, you got to draw back around and play the spoils. It's a slow card. In the end game, doesn't have time to pay off. But also the junking effect. It doesn't have time to hurt your opponent. If you give them a ruins early in the game, either they trash it or they're stuck with that for the rest of the game, and that hurts them every single shuffle. You give them a ruins in the last shuffle of the game, they don't even see it before the game ends. Out of sight, out of mind. Marauder, Marauder's a weak card in general. It's not terrible, but in Kingdom with good trashing, you almost never get it. Um, but certainly it's very, very weakly in the game. We trashed the Ruin Market and the Copper. I think trashing Ruin Market and Silk Merchant was also reasonable. Get the bonus free. Speaking of which, come on, please, please. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Uh, Either you buy nothing here or you buy an estate. Yeah, well, undo. Why didn't you play the Coin of the Realm? I'm so confused by that. So many levels. If you're concerned about the amount of junk in your deck, why did you put another curse in your deck? Why did you leave a Coin of the Realm in your deck, which is just a copper when it's not on your mat? It just junked themselves with two cards to get a card that at most trashes two cards. Trash the Marauder? No, you don't need the Marauder. It's not doing anything for you. You get 20 cards left before you even see that spoils. Silk Merchant. Thank you. Maybe they're planning on lowering the ruins. I could get behind just buying 3 ruins here. Estates at 1, curses at 1. You just lower ruins a bunch. You got a 12-point lead. You pile that up before your opponent can get 2 provinces. I think that would be the best way to justify not trashing the Marauder is maybe you go for a ruins pile out, go fast. Problem is, I don't think there's actually all that much plus buy down here, so it might not be trivial to take the last 3 ruins. This probably ought to be a duchy. If you're in the danger zone points wise. You gotta make up this deficit before these piles run out. Yeah, duchy seems correct. And probably ought to be a duchy for Teela as well. You could consider like double coin of the realm, for example. Again, same logic, trying to pile a state curse coin before they catch up. I think double coin would be the other buy I'd be considering. 10 points is not a huge buffer, but like even if they bought a province, you'd still be ahead. I think either duchy or double coin. Right, yeah, duchy is reasonable. And then JMC should take a province here and gain a silk merchant. Here's a great example of how good silk merchant is. You have 31 cards in your deck. Any other action card you add here is just not going to have any value to you before this game ends. You're not going to see it in time. Silk merchant just gives you that +1 copper, +1 villager up front. Has value as early as this next turn even. Why did you buy? They've been desperationing very aggressively all game, and then with the one curse left in the pile, with 6 money in your hand, you don't. The one time I wanted desperation, they pass up on desperation and buy a Dutch instead of a province. That's 2 extra points right there. I mean, province is worth 3 more, but you're taking a curse. There's also something to be said for, like, look at this hand. If you'd taken the last curse, you would have denied Tila a province here, because they couldn't have done this. Double coin of the realm. Yeah, wishing well is certainly not making any wishes before this game ends. I would be happy to just lower this pile a bunch. Okay, so order-wise here, it's not super clear. If I play Sentinel first to see what you're gonna draw, and then draw cards that give you information, it's a good thing to play first. You're about to draw cards. I mean, in general, drawing cards first is often a good order. But here's something that takes precedence over drawing cards, is seeing what cards you're about to draw. Trash Silk Merchant, Trash Marauder. You want the coffers, and you just don't want a Marauder in your deck at all. Sentinel at least has some value in potentially trashing curses. In fact, you don't even want to play the Marauder if you could, because you're lowering the Ruins pile. Yeah, so James in quite a bad spot. You gotta come back like quite a ways before this game ends, but you never know. I think probably you buy double duchy here. You need two provinces. I mean, a province buy is not unreasonable either, but like you need to get two provinces and two duchies before Tila does like anything really. When you had 10 money around, I think I would have taken the two duchies immediately, so that if on future turns you hit 8 instead of 10, or if you found one buy instead of two, you could still take the province. Silken province would threaten win next turn. For JMC, how do you figure? Ah, yeah. So I mean, not that it was a bad play to take. I mean, I think it's suboptimal because two duchies look better. Um, but the penultimate province rule doesn't really apply here. Obviously, if you're close in points, you don't want to take the penultimate province and let your opponent in the game. Like they were they were far enough behind that like you got to plan on getting both provinces to win. So you might as well take the second to last one, knowing that if your opponent gets the last one, they're going to win anyway. As it turned out, Teela had the win in hand. She could have just remodeled the province with the carpenter. Nah, that's not going to hunt. I don't know what that means. All right, the last kingdom. Ooh, we got another of the nasty cards. Clashes are an evil, evil pile, mostly because of Warlord. Archer can be pretty bad too. Uh, Warlord really shuts down kingdoms in a real evil way. Pretending those don't exist for the second. You do have trashing. Spice Merchant can trash the coppers. Displace or Mountain Shrine can deal with estates. Sauna can trash anything. You got villages with Conclave, Coin of the Realm. Sauna can be a village if you chain Sauna, Avanto, Sauna. You spent one action to play the first Sauna and you got actions back. So like the number of saunas you play in a chain minus one is the number of village effects you get. You got draw with Wayfarer or Avanto. You also draw with Battle Plan and Warlord. You got plus buy with Market and Spice Merchant. And any action can be Way of the Monkey. So yeah, you've otherwise got an engine here, which means uh you really, really, really don't want your opponent to have the Warlords. Um, Teal opens Coin of the Realm Displace. How do I feel about that? I think Displace is a pretty reasonable choice on 5. I'd be happy to displace the estates. I would consider Displace nothing over Displace plus Coin of the Realm. I'm not unhappy to have coins in the deck. I eventually want terminals. So I don't really dislike this either, but you should minimize the chance that you bottom deck your Displace. You don't need the coin very much early. JMC goes for Battle Plan plus Sauna. Uh, I think Battle Plan plus Cut First sticks out to me. The big threat here is you both get your engines going, and the player with the battle plan waits until they get to be the first move, or rotates to warlords, grabs a bunch of warlords, and then springs them on you, and then your deck just shuts down all of a sudden. And so if you're Tila, you've always got to play around like, what if my opponent reveals the warlords? Can't afford to gain more than 2 copies of any action card, otherwise they just become dead cards in my deck. Whereas JMC, if you're the only one with battle plans because you bought it first and you rotated the pile, you can decide whether like I'm just gonna click all the Sonas and Aventos and make sure Warlord never gets revealed so you can't do anything about it. Or if your opponent's doing that and like you're behind on the Sonas and Aventos, well then you can reveal Warlord and then you can really neutralize the advantage of them having like 3 copies of each. So I think Battle Plan looks like a mandatory opener, and I think first pairs better with that than the Sauna does. I mean, Sauna's not doing anything unless you have a silver. Whereas Cut Purse is an okay-ish card, but it's also an attack, so it has a positive synergy with Battle Plan. I haven't even finished talking about the opening yet, and they're already on turn 9, which I'm going to say is just an error in itself. There's no way you're making correct decisions about a kingdom with a million things going on at that level of speed. Um, Things have happened of some sort. A gold's been bought, and I'm upset by that. I don't know why that happened. Don't know what led us to this. Whatever it was a mistake. Okay, so it looks like they're both going for saunas and aventos, is what I gather from the state of the piles. Yeah, I'd say sauna avento looks reasonably good here. I mean, you could get by without sauna because there's other ways to trash. Looks like a good trasher, and then segues into the aventos. Sad draw. Wait. Oh, by no silvers, you don't mean they have no silvers in the deck. You just mean they didn't find their silvers. Yeah, Sauna can be an annoying card. I In this kingdom, I don't think I'd be the most upset by Sauna because like It's not like winning the Sauna split wins you the game because there's other like you could trash with other cards. You don't have to just click the Sauna Avento pile. Win the Sauna Avento pile is really good. It's really annoying. Um, I think when you're newer to the game, it's just like it's an engine in a can that feels very simple to build. And so when you're at the like kind of like level 40 or so level, um, the Sauna Avento pile feels really overpowered because it's hard to mess it up too badly. Then it also feels very luck dependent because it kind of is. I think the average Kingdom Dominion winning the Sauna split usually doesn't win you the game. I think this is one of those kingdoms. But yeah, obviously, who has the one silver? James Silver. Jacob. I mean, JMC did have two silvers for a while. If you're trying to trash a sauna, a second silver is usually a good idea. And they did have two. Meanwhile, Teela has one. Teal is also the displaced from an early stage, so it's not like they were as reliant on the saunas to trash as JMC was. So, I mean, I did have to skip through the first like nine or so turns, but it seems like this is probably more poor draws than anything. Like they did have multiple saunas, they did have multiple silvers, and they're just not colliding. Any actions in the trash? Probably the last two Aventos on a coin of the realm. There's no way that province. This is this is why you can't buy gold because you end up with too much money, and then you end up doing rash things. It's like someone who just joined the army and got their first paycheck, or like a pro athlete who just got their first big contract signed, and they just blow all their money frivolously on things that they absolutely don't need and are bad for their long-term health. What's that disease that dwarves get in the Lord of the Rings when they come into contact with gold, like the gold lust? That's not what it's called, but there's a term for it. Whatever that is. Everyone who plays Dominion starts off with that, and you got to disabuse yourself of it. Let's see. Gold sickness, also called dragon sickness or gold fever, is an apparent mental change that happens to some characters in The Hobbit. There you go. Alrighty. Let's get this province back out of our deck. Pretty please. Gone. Why the hesitation? No! I mean, not that the gold's a good card either. There's an even worse one right next to it. Uh, plus buy looks pretty good right around now. Seems like a natural way to move forward here is some like coins of the realm plus additional wayfarers. Obviously, Sauna has run its course, so you can't add more Aventos. Add like some wayfarers, some coins of the realm, a second displace, or just more provinces, or just all the provinces. I hope you dud. You deserved a dud after that. You have a functional deck, and you're just eviscerating it for no reason. Uh, I don't know what the rush is. It's not like the game's almost over. Your opponent has what, one province? This is how you throw a winning position. Is you've got your deck together, it's almost working, you just nearly drew to the end of your deck, and instead of adding a few more draw cards, some more villages, you cut and run, you go straight for the provinces, the deck falls apart, Everything goes kaput. Um, Seems like JMCH is still struggling over here, though. Although this turn we can clean up most of the junk. 3 saunas plus 2 silvers will trash all of these coppers and estates. Keep the sauna in your hand. It's the only card. Yeah. You got a chance of having a turn here. Okay, here we go. No, 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 no. No. Why did you do that? Not you too. You could have just trashed 6 cards. Totally free. I wouldn't have even thought about a province there. Your deck is not prepared to take provinces. This isn't even the same player who took. JMC was the one who took 1,000,000 coins of the realm and never used them last time. And then Teela was like, ah, they did that and lost the game. I should copy that strategy. Can we get double province again? 10, 12 already? I don't I don't think that their deck has enough uh for that sauna to draw 4 money. Not quite double province. Uh so trash all the coppers and buy like a displace. Maybe trash 3 coppers and buy displace duchy. JMC was a bit greedy themselves, but I do just want to point out the oh, is Kind Emperor gonna save this game or not quite? Wait, that's a win, wasn't it? They could have gained a Wayfarer to hand, right? Yeah, Kind Emperor isn't restricted by cost. You could have gained a 6 cost action straight to your hand. It costs 5 right now, but it costs 6 at the start of your turn. You gain a Wayfarer to hand, you displace the Wayfarer. That would have just been a win, right? Am I missing something? Pretty sure we just passed up on a free win. What do you mean money? You gain a Wayfarer to hand and you displace it in the province. Oh, were they? Oh, they're too far behind in points. Wait, were they? Oh, I see, I see, I see. They didn't have enough points at the start of the turn. Okay, forget I said anything. That was not quite a win. They would need to do province plus buy a duchy, and I think they only had 3 money in hand. Is that right? Yeah, the Avento got discarded. They could have bought an estate, but that would have been too few. Okay, okay. Um, Coin of the Realm finally got called. Okay, this is surely a win. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Just think about all these duds that happened. Like I think Tila dudded 3 straight times in a row. And like imagine if your deck was doing the same thing your deck was doing 3 turns ago, where you were like double provincing and doing all the fancy hoopla. That's what could have happened if you didn't buy all the provinces. You take like one province, you add an extra draw card, you add a village, and then you're hitting a province per turn consistently, and then you finish off by like displacing golds into the final three provinces instead of jumping the gun, taking two provinces, and then tripping over yourself three turns in a row, and then only very barely getting past the finish line here. So yeah, two main takeaways are that basically the same two as like every I League match. Don't buy golds, don't buy provinces that early. Your games will go so much better.